You're listening to episode 55 of the Journey to Launch podcast, the 1-year anniversary episode of the podcast. Woohoo!
T-minus 10 seconds.
Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast with your host, Jamila Souffrant. As a money expert who walks her talk, she helps brave journeyers like you get out of debt, save, invest, and build real wealth. Join her on the journey to launch to financial freedom in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey journeyers, it's a special episode. It's my 1-year anniversary of having the Journey to Launch podcast. I cannot believe it's already been a year. It's been a crazy time, a crazy year. So much has happened since launching the podcast. And I'm just so excited you guys have been on this journey with me. Most of you have been listening from the very beginning, from episode 1, and you're still here at episode 55. So thank you. Thank you so much for sticking with me and joining the journey. And for my newer listeners, I really think that you're in the right spot, especially if you want to learn more about financial independence, if you want to feel connected and learn from more people on the journey like you. This is the place to be. So in this anniversary episode, I wanted to make it more about you, the listeners, my journeyers. So I'd asked in my Facebook group and on my email newsletter and also on social media for you guys to send in voice messages about what you liked about the podcast. I wanted you to share your favorite episodes, where you were from, just so that other journeyers can hear you and connect with you. I thought it'd be a good way to connect with other people who might have loved the same episode that you loved. Or for new people who are listening, you can figure out like, oh, let me check out that episode. So we're going to start playing those voice notes soon. But before we do that, I thought it would be pretty cool just to do some reflection on what I've learned in the past year, how I've grown in the past year, how the podcast has affected my journey to financial independence, and so much more. So when I first started this podcast, I had the goal of just getting it done. So I really didn't know exactly what I was undertaking. I knew that a podcast was a lot of work. I didn't really understand how much work, but I did know that I was blogging. So I was writing at the time before the podcast. And writing is not something that comes easily to me. So I would be writing blog posts, and I used to have my blog post released every Monday. And then as I am an avid fan and listener of podcasts, I said, I wonder if the format of a podcast would be better suited for me, better suited for my audience. And I did. I started the podcast because I realized that I rather talk than write. I will say that even just talking on this mic every week, it does not come naturally to me. I definitely have to push myself to do it, especially the solo episodes where it's just me talking. Believe it or not, I still get very nervous when I get on this mic, but I've grown so much from the first couple episodes that I started doing this. And so I just can't imagine where I'll be in another year and 2 years and 3 years as I continue to get better. When I first started, I said I was going to do seasons and I would take some breaks. And if you've been following this podcast for a while, you realize that I have not taken a break. I have released an episode every Wednesday for a whole year. And I'm super proud of that because there are a lot of things that have happened throughout the year. There have been weeks when I was traveling or most recently had a baby, and I still did not miss an episode. I was committed to getting this out every week for you, and I wanted to just keep the momentum going. I realized that this was picking up some traction. I was getting great reviews, great feedback, and I didn't want to take a break. Now, I don't know if I'll continue to do straight episodes every Wednesday going forward. Hey, I might add some episodes, have some bonus episodes. I'm not too sure yet, but I like the format as of now. My initial goal when starting the podcast was to actually in 1 year get 100,000 downloads. Now, when I first started, I didn't realize how hard it was to get downloads. Now, a download is when someone listens or plays the podcast. So when I first started, I said, in a year, I want to reach 100,000. And when I started, I realized really quickly how hard that would be because getting downloads, getting your podcast out there, gaining traction, it's not easy. There are tons and tons of other podcasts that people can listen to, that you can choose to listen to. So to get it out there, to get quality guests on, to come up with great topics that people want to hear, it's not easy. But I did figure out a way to engage with you, to find out what you wanted to hear. And you guys have always given me great feedback on, Jamila, you should do more of this, bring more people like this on. And I really try to listen in not only to your suggestions, but to my own intuition. And so coupled with those things, I think I've been able to push this podcast ahead. So, I said I wanted to reach 100,000 downloads in a year. Well, journeyers, we have surpassed that. We have doubled that. We have almost reached, by the time this episode airs, 230,000 downloads. That is crazy. Can you imagine? So that means that someone has listened to this. You have listened to this collectively 230,000 times. All the episodes, all the guests, all my rambling, all my talking. This has been played 230,000 times. And that's not bad for a podcast that started without really a big base, without any big financial backing. It's just me and my ideas and your support and ideas that helped me through it. So thank you for that. Since launching the podcast, I've gotten some great recognition. The podcast, when it first came out, was nominated as Best New Podcast and Best New Blog. So Journey to Launch itself was voted for Best New Podcast and Best New Blog at last year's FinCon Plutus Award. So the Plutus Awards nominated Journey to Launch, and I didn't win those categories, but I'll tell you, I didn't expect to be nominated in both those categories, and I was so honored to do that. And the fact that I think at that point the podcast was out for a few months, maybe it was 4 months, and it was nominated, was amazing. The podcast was also listed by BuzzFeed as one of 27 podcasts to listen to in 2018. So that was a big accomplishment, a big head nod by a really great website media source. And that also brought tons of listeners. So that helped. And I was just super proud to have made that list. In addition to that, my story and the podcast got some really good mentions and features in publications such as Money Magazine, Business Insider, and tons of other media sources. You guys also continually show up and leave me reviews. And so on Apple Podcasts, I always ask you in each podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe in the Purple app. You guys do that. And I am now up to 335 reviews, and it might probably be more by the time this episode is released. Oh, I made a mistake. It's 343 reviews. And so I'm sure that will climb a bit. It does every day or every other day. And my goal for the end of the year is to reach 500 reviews. So if you have not reviewed this yet and you listen to this in Apple Podcasts, please go do that so we can hit that goal too. So let's talk about a bit of the episodes. I've had 55 episodes so far with tons and tons of amazing guests and tons of solo episodes from me. And I break down the podcast, if you're a newer listener, into targeted topics. So deep dives on specialized things such as credit or debt, student loans, HSA accounts. I love getting into the weeds on things like that because understanding that is the basis for reaching all of your financial goals. And then, I love bringing on people who are on the journey to financial independence, who have reached financial independence, so that you guys can relate and take things from their journey and apply it to your journey. I also love just talking to inspirational people. And my favorite thing to talk about here is the mindset part of things. So the non-tactical, number-focused stuff, the things like emotional and mental well-being and pushing yourself forward on this journey, I love focusing on. So I've had a couple of those episodes. And so it's been a wide range of topics, and I love that. And I especially love that if someone has a question, if they approach me via in person or online or someone in the Facebook group, I can direct them to a episode most likely. And that feels really good that I can say, if someone has a question about student loans, hey, did you check out the student loan episode? Or if someone has a question about real estate, I have a couple podcasts that touch upon real estate. So it feels really good to have a library, to have a collection of episodes to point people to. I wanted to also talk about what you guys kind of said your favorite episodes were. So just taking a gauge on feedback and looking at the numbers, I'm going to tell you what the most downloaded episodes are on the podcast. Well, I should say just the most popular, not necessarily most downloaded, but the ones that I've gotten the most feedback about, the ones that people always bring up, and then just according to the numbers, what was really popular. So people really loved episode 41, How to Change Your Mindset, Habits, and Belief with Jim Fortin. That was episode 41. I always get great feedback about that one. And I'm so glad that I had Jim on the podcast. So that was good. If you didn't listen to that one yet, check it out. People also seem to really like Grant Sabatier's episode 48, which was From Unemployed and Broke to a Millionaire. He was really good, talked about his journey to financial independence, how he's using his platform to increase his income and help other people. That was great. I had the guys of Choose FI on the podcast. That was episode 19. They love that one. Even the Choose FI guys say that episode about when they talked about the pillars of FI, they did that better on my show than their actual show. They really said that. So that was pretty amazing. So that was episode 19. And some of my favorite episodes. So, really, all of these episodes are my favorite. I know it sounds cliche, but I'm really excited to talk to every guest I bring on. I really take my time to find the best guests for you, to find a different wide range of backgrounds, opinions, and diversity in this space. But some of my favorite episodes are when I interviewed Sylvia, the lawyer who paid off 6 figures of debt and is on her way to reach financial independence. I just loved her story. That was episode 47. One of my early faves was episode 6, How to Improve Your Mindset and Stay Focused with Fifi. That was episode 6. And I really enjoyed that with Fifi because we talked a lot about just mindset and staying focused on this journey, which we all can use from time to time, just that reassurance and encouragement that it's worth it to stay on it. So I encourage you to listen to that one if you haven't yet. And then just one more episode. I'm telling you, it's hard. I'm looking at them all now and it's hard to pick, but I really think having my husband on was also a really special podcast episode for me. That was episode 20. So episode 20, I brought my husband Woody on the show, and that was pretty fun. We chatted about how he got on board with this whole crazy idea of financial independence. And I thought it was cool to just show you a more personal side of me and how we together communicate. And that was fun. And people always reference that and say, it was really nice hearing your husband on the podcast. So that was episode 20. And now I want to play just a few of the voicemails that came in. And I'm so grateful that you guys all took the time to, one, send in the voicemails and even write in the Facebook group. So I had asked this question in the Facebook group. Please let me know your name, where you're from, your favorite episode, and why it's your favorite episode. And I got tons of great responses. But I would like to especially thank Courtney, Esperanza, Hector, Jocelyn, Lynn, and Nasima. They sent in voicemails, and you're going to hear them all talk about what their favorite episode is now. And if you can relate to it, If you also like the same episode, or you feeling what they're saying, or if you haven't heard the episode that they mentioned yet, go check it out. Okay, so let's listen in about what each one of them liked in particular about an episode.
Hi, Jamila. My name is Courtney. I am a listener who lives in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And I just wanted to call in because I'm so grateful for your podcast and your blog. I have been listening to your podcast from the beginning when you were a guest on another podcast. And you're just one of my favorites out there for many reasons. I'm a mom, and I discovered financial independence just this past year in my 30s. And so your podcast really gave me a lot of hope as a single income family now. I saw that we are actually able as a family to strive for financial independence, even though we have a single income and we have kids. And so thank you for your perspective. I don't have a favorite episode, but I would say that from every single episode, I've been able to pick up on something useful, applicable to my life. And so I was also really excited that you are a person of color, that you don't look or sound like almost anybody in the financial independence space. And I was really excited for that as a female and as a minority. So keep up the great work. Congratulations on all the success. And I know you'll do greater and greater things. Thanks.
Hi, Jamila. This is Esperanza from Texas. I just want to let you know that I found your podcast by accident. I had clicked on a email from Trulia, and it was talking about some crazy long commutes, and that's how I found you in it. And I read that your commute was 4 hours per day and that you would listen to podcasts, and that's how it inspired you to create your own podcast. And then when I saw that it was about financial independence, I was really intrigued because I really don't have a lot of information on how to be financially independent. I mean, yeah, I know how to make a budget, but it wasn't until I started listening to you that it really hit me. I absolutely loved the episode where you talked about how you and your husband had saved $85,000. That one really just inspired me and moved me to start doing some big things in our finances as well. I also shared it with my sisters and my friends, and I'm just happy to say that we're finally awake from the sleepwalking, and now we're just so motivated every day to get closer to being financially independent. So thanks, Jamila. You're changing lives.
Hi, Jamila. This is Heitor from France. So, for my favorite episode, I really can choose between 39 with Ricky Rubin and 26 about the wealth formula. I loved how you dig deep into that and explain every detail. So, for the last question, really, having this weekly reminder to take the best care of my finances has made me so much more aware and intentional of it all. Since last year, I started to do a lot of research about finances, and Journey to the Launch is undoubtedly the one that I hang on to the most. Since then, I started house hacking, which by itself will increase in 10% my savings rate, which is just great. And I started using YNAB as my tracking system for my money, and it's changed my life. I've used so many of those before, and none of them have worked. And with YNAB, I really know what's going on. I have a way better understanding of my money flow, and I have been able to do wonders with the money I already got. And with this month's salary, I have just fully funded my 6-month emergency fund, and I'm so proud of myself. Thanks, Jamila, for your amazing content. Bye!
My name is Jocelyn Fassner. I'm currently living in Spain. My favorite podcast is Vicki Robbins of Your Money or Your Life. I love what she said about material items earning the right to be in your life. I was pretty frugal before that, but now I live out of a backpack. I've never been lighter or felt better. So thank you to her for that. I think about that at least once a day. And thank you, Jamila. It's a great podcast. Keep it up.
Hi, this is Lynn from Los Angeles. My favorite episode was in September 2017 with Patrice Washington. Her money mindset and story are so inspiring. I also want to add that shortly after finding Jamila's podcast, I went to her website and found her budget bootcamp class. After implementing what I learned from the course and from Jamila's podcast, I became better at budgeting and I saved thousands of dollars in just a few months. And during that time, I didn't feel deprived or that my lifestyle had changed. I'm so glad that I found Jamila's podcast. Keep up the good work, Jamila. Thank you.
Hey, Jamila, it's your girl, Nasima from Oakland, California. And you know, my favorite episode is when you had the guys of Choose FI on there. And that was my first real introduction to FI. So I thank you for opening my world up to FI. It's totally changed my financial course. It's enlightened me to so many optimizations in life. And I give you all the credit. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out that episode with Brad and Jonathan of Choose FI, check it out.
Thank you. Thanks so much, guys, for sending in your voice notes. So when someone takes the time out to do things like this, whether it is to leave a review or to vote for me in something that I'm asking you to vote for, or nominate me for a Plutus Award, and like for this, send in a voice note, I appreciate it. So thank you again. So where will Journey to Launch be in another year? I'm not sure. I really don't know. I mean, I do have some ideas and I have some big plans, but when it comes to how I have grown since starting this podcast and then where I can potentially be, the possibilities are endless. And I can't wait to see where we'll be next year, Journeyers. I have a lot of great things in store. I'm going to be adding some cool new features and parts of the podcast that I think that you will appreciate and enjoy. So I'm looking forward to that. Stay tuned for that announcement. And I think that the sky's the limit here. I always say that we are only as limited as our mind, because if our mind can conceive it, it can be achieved. I know it sounds corny, a little cliche, but it's so true. And can you believe sometimes that you can't even conceive what's out there for you, that the world, the universe is conspiring to help you towards your dreams as long as you are positive, as long as you're working towards it in alignment, as long as you are putting your best foot forward. So yes, I'm talking about the podcast right now, but I'm talking about life in general. And I'm talking about your life. So your financial life, your overall life, anything you want right now, Journeyers, anything you want is possible. I'm telling you, it is. And I can't wait for you to accomplish those things that you want and to see for yourself. I'm sure a lot of you've seen it in your lives already. Look at all the great things you've been able to do, from paying off debt to saving money to reaching these financial goals that you guys have set. Like imagine if you just keep going where you'll be. And as a big favor, as a thing to say, hey, happy anniversary, please screenshot you listening to this episode and tweet me, tag me on Facebook, tag me on Instagram, and say happy anniversary to Journey to Launch, and just put that you're listening to the podcast so other people can find out about it. They can also chime in and listen. All right, Journeyers, thanks so much for listening. And if you want any of the show notes for this, you can go to journeytolaunch.com/episode 55. So until next week, keep on journeying, Journeyers.